No one could have predicted it. But the day Lee Jung Woo stepped into Dong Jin High School, his destiny would change. Although he was the strongest in his old town, he was still just a normal high school student. But after an encounter with the boss, Kim In-bum, his entire path will take a detour into a deadly world, dragging in those around him as he tries to rise to the height of the Korean underworld. As the head of the Do-hyun-pa, Lee Jung Woo takes over the Chan-li-pa and topples the Dong-hai-pa to become the top of Seoul and all of Korea. But before he became known as the first fist of Seoul, it all started that day at Dong Jin High School. A school linked to the J-Sik Group, an organization that was originally under the umbrella of Hwanggang Industries as a subsidiary, now part of the Dong-hae Group. Kim In-bum is a recruit for the organization, currently being scouted from Dong Jin High School, which is known for producing students who join the Korean underworld. And so, that's where our story begins. In the middle of another story. As Kim Jong-il directs Lee Jung Woo to Dong Jin High School, he has no idea just who this youngster is or will become. Just as Lee Jung Woo has no idea who Kim Jong-il is, or what he will one day go on to do. But today, we're not going to see Kang Hyuk in Pyo Tae-jin. Today is the day we meet Lee Jung Woo. The Tong. What's the Tong? That's slang for the best. Lee Jung Woo has transferred to Dong Jin High School. He's moved here to Seoul from Busan, which is roughly 2 to 3 hours away, a town on the southern coast of the Korean peninsula, far away from the capital and the North Korean border. Jung Woo is a boy from the city by the sea, like myself. As Lee Jung Woo introduces himself to the class, he scopes out the situation, and at the same time, his new classmates also lock their eyes on him. It seems like a simple greeting, but the moment sets the tone. When Jung Woo doesn't respectfully greet his classmates, it's a notice. He's letting them know that he's not here to bow his head to anyone, and they pick up on it. Not long into his day, someone lets him know that they got the message. They attempt to bully Jung Woo, but he doesn't lose his cool. It's not time to go to work yet. And getting hit with a piece of paper is certainly no reason to go crazy. He keeps his cool even after his lunch is knocked onto the floor. It's no problem to buy another lunch. Jung Woo's family is actually wealthy. There's no story of poverty pushing him to be tough. He didn't become strong because of bullying or bad environment. He's just a born warrior. And this is put to the test when the bully confronts him directly. This is what Jung Woo was waiting for. Small provocations won't get him to react emotionally. It's no big deal to shrug it off, because he can take care of it later. But if you confront him directly, he deals with you. And with the onlookers locking their eyes onto the situation, he won't allow himself to look weak. So, the response is immediate, violent, and to put a cherry on top, degrading. Jung Woo puts the would-be bully in his place in front of everyone, letting them know what can happen to them if they act up. And without going too far, according to me, he then goes about his business. This wasn't a major event for him. It was just a hiccup to be dealt with. But that doesn't mean this is where it ends. He catches the eye of the class boss, the biggest boy in class. but he doesn't make a move as Lee Jung Woo exits the room. This school isn't the only one of its sort. There are a number of school-based gangs, some of which, like Dong Jin High, are recruiting grounds for organized crime groups in the area. After all, everyone has to start somewhere. Students in their first year are recruited into the school gang against their will. Refusal results in a beating and isolation from the general group, which is preferable to people who simply don't want to be involved in crime. Transfer students are a different story. The ones who don't look worth recruiting are simply ignored or become fodder for bullies. But the strong ones are usually ganged up on by the other students and may be recruited in the following year. It's a surprisingly rigid structure for a high school-based organization. But this is them prepping for their future as criminals, I suppose. Though there aren't a lot of schools still doing this, there are still a few. And apparently the school Jung Woo is now in isn't much different from his old school, since they both used this system of recruitment. And that's how Kim Jin-woo enters the story. But that's later. Lee Jung Woo soon meets with the class boss, who, despite his imposing size and his status as the head of the class, greets Jung Woo cordially, extending a hand, giving his name, Jung Hyun. He's tall enough to look down at Jung Woo, and about twice as wide. He apologizes for the earlier bullying, letting Jung Woo know that it was his order, done to test Jung Woo's mettle, to see if that tough look was real. Jung Woo is standoffish, but asks if Jung Hyun has something to say. When Jung Hyun tells him that he wants to tell him on the rooftop, Jung Woo doesn't hesitate, telling him to lead the way. He doesn't have any fear or concern about what's waiting for him. He meets any challenge head on, and that's when we learn what the word means. When Jung Hyun asks if Jung Woo was the best in his hometown of Busan, Jung Woo replies simply, "I was the Tong." This seems to be slang local to his hometown, as Jung Hyun is unfamiliar with the term. When they arrive at the rooftop, there's a circle of 9 boys, and with Jung Hyun standing behind him, that makes 10. 9 standing and 1 sitting in the middle. Jung Woo marks him as the leader and approaches him to ask directly. And it doesn't take a moment before he makes that clear on his own terms. He doesn't answer Jung Woo's question directly. Instead, he compliments him and tells him to join his circle. This is Kim Min-bum, the one who played mediator to the fight between Pyo Tae-jin and Kim Jong-il against the 3-man group. He and Jong-il have a history, having fought before, when Jong-il was still attending Ki-chun High, another school in the area with a school gang. Lee Jung Woo isn't someone meant to be under anyone's umbrella. He balks at In-bum's command to join the circle. I extended you a hand, and you refuse? We can't just let that pass. This puts In-bum in the position of having to save face. But once again, this is what Jung Woo is all about. The numbers don't shake him in the slightest. He simply tells them, "Come!" and readies himself for the oncoming violence. Except the violence will all be controlled by him. Even if you make the first move, you're within Jung Woo's sphere, and only the best are welcome. All others are summarily executed upon entry. The first to make an attempt becomes an example instead. Lee Jung Woo's heel cracks him in the chin like a strike of lightning. Before he even realizes what's happened, he's out of the fight. The upper ranks immediately take notice, and while Kim In-bum and Yoon Jung-hyun can't quite believe their eyes, Tae-han's expression is different, as one who felt that sudden onset of violence. It isn't until the first attacker sinks to the ground, slumped to his knees, that Kim In-bum comes to his senses, ordering the remaining onlookers to stop onlooking and get to work. But instead, they just get worked. Pause. They can't land a hit on Jung Woo, and adversely, every hit he throws lands exactly where he wants. He employs tactics made for brawling, using his enemy's momentum against them, as well as their clothing. After knocking down 3 more opponents, he closes in on the remaining students, who stand there in shock at the turn of events. The fact of the matter is, the numbers don't mean anything when everyone adds up to garbage. With 3 more down, the last of the underlings attempts to swing at Jung Woo with a weapon. So naturally, he gets the worst treatment of all. After a quick jab to knock him off balance and shock his senses, Jung Woo flips him onto the ground. And as he looks Kim In-bum and the others in the face, he breaks his enemy's arm without hesitation. Jung Woo sees Tae-han, the last underling standing, completely break in spirit, and decides it's time to leave. Kim In-bum doesn't move. He just keeps smiling and enjoying his lollipop, as if this was no sweat to him. But Jung Hyun's friendly demeanor is gone as he steps in front of Jung Woo when he attempts to exit. The air between them is thick, but neither man makes a move. Jung Hyun isn't just large, but he also isn't reckless. He doesn't make a move without the boss say so, and the boss tells him that Jung Woo is free to go, thoroughly impressed with the display. Jung Hyun moves aside for Lee Jung Woo, and as he does, I myself want to make one thing very clear. Jung Hyun is not afraid at all. Trust me on that. But that's the first day at a new school. My teachers were complaining because I insulted some kid's mom on my first day as a transfer student. Maybe I should have just done this instead.